Hello, hello, hello to all of you. Welcome to the grand finals of the Prospect Cup. I am Rich Rad here with Got Moxie, bringing you the climactic ending of this tournament today. And Moxie, this is going to be quite an exciting matchup and a long one to boot.
Yeah, it's going to be our first to four format, Rich. So we may be in for 7 maps of Overwatch. Fingers crossed, because it is actually a rematch tonight. MYM and Regen
Ooh.
have already met before. It was way back in the group stages, and Regen took it 3-1. So MYM, the redemption arc, it's right there. It's within reach. They've been able to fight their way all the way through the losers bracket, Rich, and it's within touching distance right now.
And it's tremendous to see that. And really, the fact that now this time has passed, you've got Mind Your Manners really bolstering their morale, taking it into this grand finals, and really wanting to show that they are here for a reason, as you said. We're going to get this underway shortly. We're starting off with the control map first, but there's also, because since Regen has actually been through the entire winner's bracket, they're going to get a little bit of a benefit here.
Yes, so we want to reward the fact that they haven't so far dropped a match in playoffs, and we're giving them one map right off the bat. This is what a lot of tournaments do, Rich, so MYM are going to have to work just a little bit harder if they
Mm-hmm.
want to equalize things. But heading into Lijiang, MYM do have a sort of technique that they like to run on one of these specific maps, Rich, Control Center.
Mm-hmm.
We've
We were
seen the
talking about it
meta
earlier.
shift away from the Mei and the Reinhardt and Zarya. And now we're actually getting to see a little bit of spam composition coming through with the
Mm.
Junkrat, with the Ashe, but MYM like to put Biz on a Doomfist and send him straight into that back line.
Well, and the biggest part of it is because you mentioned it when we were even on our break, where there's a lot of lack of crowd control, and not being able to have something to sustain that Doomfist can really allow it to just reap what it sows on an enemy. And going into this, it's going to be really critical if that Doomfist does show how to handle it and what can they do to handle it.
Yes, I believe when they ran it the first time that I got to see it, it was up against 303 Esports 2 days
Mm.
ago. And that was into a Genji and a Reaper, a Lucio and a Moira, a Diva and a Reinhardt. So no CC there, but no control center right now, Rich. We're going to be headed over to Gardens. So you can either opt in to dive, or you can go the double shield strategy and hope that you can get that point before the Winston tries to jump on in.
Absolutely. Well, but you also had a little bit of a discussion where there isn't really much of a dive composition that specifically comes out more so from Regen. And that's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays into this. There's a lot of aerial space. And then also something to touch on as well. We actually are playing on the new live patch, which also has the reduction in the Genji shurikens as well. Not too sure if we'll see that relevancy here, but over the course of this, since Genji has really started to play a role in this, I'm wondering how that's going to affect types of compositions and what selections will come out.
We're going to be seeing the sim coming out from MYM, just trying to get that Reinhardt and Orisa on point. Remember, if you play that Reinhardt, you don't want to go bridge, but you can just teleport straight over the moat of death and get yourself safely onto point. Regen going to be going for the same thing. It's all about who can touch first, and with Biz on that Mei, it's going to be extremely difficult for Regen to get a foot into the door when that Mei and sim is there.
Instantly placed on this point, as you said, with that Symmetra turret for MYM in a great position, having those Sentry turrets on the inner doorway if anybody moves through that opening. A lot of harass coming out from Chomper on the front with the shurikens, just trying to whittle away at those high health values on the front side, even with the reduction, as I said in the patch note that just came through. Biz is also holding this side position, the wall gonna sever away anyone from Regen to even get onto this point, and Mind Your Manners now having to take the brunt of this, still having that aggressive positioning forward towards the doorway. The immortality field has been expended, and managing to hold on to this, still generating 10% and climbing with a cleanup finally onto Regen.
It's so hard to unseat a Symmetra, especially when Biz is there with those walls. Make sure that they catch Regen's exit right before that Orisa can get out and still in control of this point. Now if you're Regen, you've got a really difficult decision. Right? Do you swap to poke, where you can try and go onto something like a Pharah and get one of those targets down, take a little bit of threat away from the front line? Because if you keep going in with this Genji, if you keep going in with this McCree, Orisa, and Sigma, MYM are just going to look at you all in one direction and mow you down.
And with that look, you can see it's through a window here for Boat in the back, but does get blocked off by the Maywall. Will not be able to find too much value here with the Deadeye, since all rotate from Mind Your Manners outside of the corridor in the back. Dragon Blade to enter in with Chopper. Nice immortality field to mitigate, but with it being taken down, there is still a significant amount of damage coming out from that blade, and that's a cleanup here from Regen on to Mind Your Manners.
This is when we should see Dent head swap off the sim. You've lost the bonus of those turrets on the point. You're not going to be able to set that one up easily, and there's not even really a reason to be keeping a hold of this wall, right? You're not going to be stopping a barrage or a Diva Bomb or even a Deadeye coming out from Boat, but they're going to be sticking with it. And I mean, Perry's still on that Reinhardt, and you really don't want to go side room. It takes a very long time for that rotation to come through, and Lava will be having those supercharges if you go for this really lumpy rotation.
And Lava having the supercharger ready, so it is prepped for this fight. You also have the Flux in tandem to work, leading with the rally along with the amplification matrix coming out in the backside to boost the damage. Immortality field has been forced out early. Magic also getting that rally in return to compete, to sustain through the damage. The supercharger was brought down though by the Symmetra in the back, but the blade still shall prevail. Here is the quad coming through by Chopper, and it is another stellar blade, a second time in a row.
This was literally 5% away from the ultimate that could have stopped Chopper in his tracks. You have that Blizzard, when the blade comes through, you drop it, your team just runs into it, acts as a sort of umbrella from the team kill, but unfortunately you didn't have it. You will have it in this next push, but you've got to be able to set up on point, and you've got to make sure Regen don't just disengage, that they don't have an immortality field and use that to make their escape, otherwise a win condition is going to flop.
And the win condition is that Blizzard in the eyes of MYM, moving from that side room. Still a lot of pressure though in the back. Boat's gonna keep a long distance here with that Deadeye coming out to just peek the corner here as the Blizzard comes out in the back. Boat able to just skirt outside of it, along with a support play coming out from Magic. That Earth Shatter going to land immediately after, since so many have been pressed back. That will be enough for Mind Your Manners to claim this back and start generating some percentage of their own, but very costly here.
It's so much. It costs them everything that they have in the tank region. Now it is going to be a matter of buying yourself time for Denthead to be coming in with this Deadeye, otherwise Regen are just going to be on top of you with a supercharged Sigma Flux of their own.
And with this forward position for that Sigma Flux, it needs to be very, very cautious from MYM against Regen. If caught out in the open, just around the corner, nice Maywall though to separate the front. Lava goes down, and there is the collapse coming out from MYM over the bridgeway. The Deadeye as well from Denthead gets a nice force back, and that's going to be a reset, but 10% remaining. This is a very difficult position to be in.
That's exactly what MYM needed, but Regen, they've got the ultimates right now. They've got the stagger picks as well. Magic Maple going onto the Lucian. They just have to touch.
Oh, and they managed to do so. The Lucio through the window gets overhead, but there's not going to be too much. You at least get one kill onto Pair, which is great, reducing one of the tanks, but this stagger is going to be detrimental to Regen. It's going to be Mind Your Manners maintaining this position. The overtime wick is going to be drawn out from this Lucio play. Both tanks, though, have now come back into this, and you've got the Dragon Blade through the window, swiftly diving into the back, getting the double. Watch the triple underneath the immortality field. The stun from that Wrecking Ball manages to buy some time. But this could be really anybody's moment right now. The dash resets are coming through, and Regen might not be out of this.
There's no CC, there's no way to shut this Genji down other than bullets, and he's still getting kills!
And the Lucio keeping close enough in proximity with Lava now coming back into the fight. The boot kill, though, takes down Magic, which is critical. The healers are no longer available. It has to buy enough time for that second support to attempt to get onto this point. CJ going to the Moira. That fade onto the point needs to come through quickly to assist. An extensive overtime held right now from Mind Your Manners, and this Tracer and stall tactic picks are going to continue from both sides to see who can withstand it as a Blizzard from Biz comes out.
That should just be it. That should be immediate shutdown. You're able to CC the hamster. He can't go for the spin cycle. And that overtime is being taken for so long, Rich. If a single person steps off, it's going to be gone in the blink of an eye.
And with it being a blink of an eye, it finally comes true. That is one round taken so far for Mind Your Manners on this Gardens map. And I gotta say, Regen, even though they were being outmatched towards the end of it with those staggered picks, that was still a worthy contest.
And I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Genji still being very much viable. Right? Shurikens may have got docked to 28 damage, but he still does enough, and Blade is still terrifying. It's not about netting you kills, it's about netting you abilities and utility, specifically Immortality Field. from the Batiste from the other side as we head off into Control Center. And there he is, Biz going for that trademark Doomfist. Regen, they've got Chopper on the Junkrat, but Boat is going to be the one that needs to come in big. He has to be able to CC and get this Doomfist out of his backline, otherwise this team composition is going to crumble.
Well, and there's also that subtle soft crowd control as well from the Junkrat on Chopper with that trap, but it's not going to be as forward. So if there's a dive in the back by Biz, that's going to be really helpful to also assist if finding Biz in a difficult position. With this main high ground position obtained, though, from Regen, dropping down a nice flank in the back, even exchange for 1 DPS on both sides. Having a nice rotation around the center pillar, the Immortality Field is forced out here from Pascal, but unbelievable Immortality Field, lightning fast, 40% quicker than their counterpart. And with this back and forth exchange, this is still lending in favor of Mind Your Manners. Even though Lava's still on the front, there is still an opportunity to keep this fight going.
He's got the Shatter and his team that started to get the picks. They've got a presence on point, Rich.
Unbelievable job to recover from that. MYM in a very good position at the start, but unfortunately, Regen was able to take it back and also be very conservative on the ultimates they generated.
And now MYM have the toughest task, getting through Choke when the team they're facing already have ultimates up and ready. You've got a Shatter, you've got an Amplification Matrix, Sigma Flux is going to be coming in. Pascal is going to be put into a horrendous place where you've only got 1 Immortality Field on a 25-second cooldown.
And with that 25-second cooldown, you can see about 25 seconds, I would say, until all 6 ultimates are available for Regen. And you're leading with 1 with CJ up front. That damage boost is going to help those grenades in the back, but being picked down for a brief moment with the Earth Shatter buys enough time for MYM to actually take that back. Despite the take and a few percentage gain, Chopper with the double and the regroup from Regen is actually going to clean up and instantly take it back.
You're running a Reinhardt into a poke composition, worse, a spam composition, and you can see Pen now going to be swapping off, but it's a little bit late. You can see Regen, they've already got 41% on this point. You want to build up to that Sigma Flex. It's the one thing that you really want to get CJ to part with Immortality Field, because Dense Blade has to be huge. If MYM aren't able to win this next fight, they're not going to be able to recover from this map.
Absolutely, with that percentage, it's very detrimental. Biz in the back, gonna look for a flank and has the Meteor Strike available, but again, has to keep a weary eye out for the trap. Deadeye going to lead in from Boat. Does go for the dive. Biz forcing the Meteor Strike since the combination couldn't come through on the supports. Looking for the Lucio, can't seem to find it. Does get knocked back by the Accretion, barely surviving. And with all the harass in the back, Dent on the front is going to force out the Dragon Blade with the Supercharger as well. Even this rally. So once again, a lot committed here, but it was worthwhile to at least start generating some percent.
And now you've got hold of Choke. Pascal's Amplification Matrix can find something, and it won't just be securing yourself space, it can net you a kill.
And with this press forward Amplification Matrix, as you said, leading in, so there is a great reset potential here onto Regen, and Regen's going to respect this. They do not want to go into that window, especially with this Riptire, going to draw some time out, taking the long way around, and this Immortality Field is already forced out. Beautiful job. If it can just hold a second longer to get behind, does get 1, and also takes out the Immortality Field. Pressing forward with this Amplification Matrix from CJ, from Regen, is going to be critical to take advantage of this, to switch back the point, and it'll be basically MYM getting one last opportunity to switch this back.
Unfortunately for MYM, when they come into the Sigma Flux, you're just setting Boat up for a pick and Deadeye if he's able to win the duel against the Genji.
Oh, unbelievable job. Doesn't get the follow-up on the flashbang, but the distance and separation between the two, not allowing Dent to get the kill, is critical. And now they're going to come back with a reset and still a decent 10% to work with.
And they've got to wait. Dent's the one that they're relying on right now. That blade has to be huge.
And all the while, waiting on the blade, you've got Boat zoning all members of MYM out to make sure that nobody can touch the point. That Tumbleweed ain't getting much in the center of that screen, as it's got Dent now rotating around the side, getting a lot of damage behind the shield, looking for the blade opportunity, gets the dash onto the support. And now, with the Flux rising and falling on the enemy, the execution needs to happen, but no, it's going to be on Dent itself, with Chopper getting the pick. This is still a chance to try and compete. Numbers advantage in MYM. They will come through. The focus fire is there and take this back.
It's about the utility. Again, we see Dent, the blade comes through and it doesn't net you the team kill that you want, but it pulls out Immortality Field from CJ, and that means the rest of the team can just collapse as soon as they've lost their DPS. But if you're MYM, you need to be keeping hold of that utility because shit's going to be coming in with a Sigma Flux, and the team can't be caught out by this, Rich, because Chopper's just going to be waiting with that Junkrat side. If one hits and pulls out that field, the next cell's just going to come through and win the fight.
Absolutely. With that early lead, it's critical. Here comes the Flux into the Riptire. This is the combination necessary. The Immortality Field is forced out. If enough time is bought, that will be there. But the Riptire is taken out by Biz, so it completely alleviates that potential problem. CJ taking out Biz in the backside. Manages to get some rotation up top with Chopper as well. Boat harassing heavily. And the Earthshatter as an insurance policy where Regen is just completely swarming the enemy. MYM is not going to be able to sustain. The Tracer comes out for a last-second touch, but that is not going to be enough as we enter into this third round of on Night Market between these two.
I love that Magic Maple comes out on Delucio as well. This is something that we didn't really get to talk about, but when you're running a Reinhardt into something like an Orisa, like a Sigma, you've got to have that speed boost. Otherwise, he just takes too much damage. His shield is absolutely in shatters before he can actually get in to that team fight. So with one, the other has to be there, and Regen do exactly that, and they're able to keep Lava on that Reinhardt the entire round. Whereas Pear, because he doesn't have that Lucio, he's only got a Brigida, he's got to swap off onto the Sigma, thus he's behind in the ultimate battle, and he doesn't have the Sigma Flux online for when the team really needs it.
And I mean, this map could really be anybody's game. There are so many micro things that can adjust in this to go either way. They've both demonstrated an excellent gameplay here. And really, I think who's going to get this point first, and it already is going to be MYM approaching with the 6th. Symmetra is going to have a real early advantage.
And again, Biz on this Mei is going to be making it so hard for Regen to successfully walk onto point. Boat is on the actual, a little bit more poke damage, but you still got to hit the fights.
And that separation with the wall gives a lot of problem to Ship. Needs to be careful, but supports are there to keep them alive. Chopper, on the other hand, skirting by with a sliver of health, still survives. Stellar job between both Magic and CJ at this present time, keeping the entire team of Regen alive for how low they've come. And with that amount of damage, Pascal is going to get that amplification matrix out to force even more damage onto this team, and Regen is in really hot water now and needs to get value from the Flux, and manages to do so.
Batista's gone! No Immortality Field, no main support, no MYM on point. Did you manage to eke up 21%, and Dent had being so close to that symbol? Is no doubt going to be sticking with that one, because now you do have something the ultimate can stop. Supercharges are going to be coming out from Lava, they're just going to have Amplification Matrix, and those are things that Regen are going to rely on to zone you, to keep you in this choke for as long as you possibly can. You've got the Sound where you can use it very aggressively or defensively if you want to try and deal with Chopper's Blade.
Nice teleport once again coming from the back line, trying to generate that photon barrier quick enough to utilize, but unfortunately it's not going to come through. You've got Bob doing a lot of work. 7 players on the point now for Regen, including the Omnic, and that's going to be a lightning fast cleanup here on MYM.
It's a fast fight, but unfortunately it doesn't do what MYM needs. It doesn't let Biz build up to that Blizzard. This is the one thing that the team is relying on. To get onto that point to drop Blizzard immediately buys you the space, immediately forces Chopper to think twice when he pulls out that blade, but you're 10% away and Regen are ready to go now.
Photon barrier leading into it. Green means go. That backline positioning with that Dragon Blade comes through. The halt attempting to bring them close together for the slash damage, but it's not going to happen. Immortality Field is forced out. Both the Immortality Field and that Supercharger brought down quickly by MYM, which is very beautifully done. Allows this take back, but I'm not sure how long it's going to last with that return Flux getting a double Moxie.
Oh, Starscream's trying to drop the Superchargers to make up for the lack of damage when you've got fallen teammates, Rich, but it's not enough. MYM, they were able to push Regen onto the sidelines, able to push them within environmental kill reach, but none of them are able to do it. The Ursa Halt doesn't connect, the Lucio doesn't even go for the boop, and now you're left leaking towards final fight territory, 72% on the board and counting for Regen with an amplification matrix that they can drop. In MYM, you've got to respect that. You may have amplification matrix of your own, but Regen already controls the point. They've got natural cover to hide behind.
Absolutely, and these doorways being so narrow doesn't give much room for error for Mind Your Manners. Pressing onto this, you're going to have the amplification matrix, both sides expended. The dynamite in the back comes through, but a nice pickoff from Denthead over both. The counterpart not available. Biz playing very cautiously here, already just looking to generate this ultimate quickly. Gets a pick in the back onto CJ, surprisingly, along with another going down onto Magic. Both supports are down, and this is going to be a great chance for Mind Your Manners.
It's the pincer movement, and it works so beautifully when you can collapse onto that Batiste, and you've only got Brigitte, especially now that Brig's overheal just does not work. You can only have your full health bar, not the maximum amount above. Is really hard to sustain when you've only got that off support up and alive. In MYM, they're going to have to sustain in these next fights, which 50% they need on this board. Denthead needs to come in with a Bob to try and keep Regen away.
Absolutely, and zoning in, coming out, Bob of their own from Regen pressing forward. Immortality Field has instantly been brought out, and along with Chipsy going down, this is spelling disaster for Mind Your Manners. A follow-up to take down that counterpart Bob and the summoner as well of the Omnic. This is an instant changeover. Regen coming in with the advantage, getting Bob to get the early kill on the support, and this overtime is going to wick away, allowing that first map on Lijiang to go in favor of Regen, giving them a 2-map score over Mind Your Manners.
MYM get a little bit greedy in that last fight. They know that they have to get the Ashe up into that Bob percentage, but they play very aggressively. They play as if they've already got that ultimate charged. And that means when Regen come in with a Bob already in their pocket, they can just drop it immediately. In MYM, when they're on that Brigitte, they don't have that Lucio, they don't have that clean disengage, and they lose the Brig before the fight properly starts, Rich. And when you lose any of these players in the composition that we see double shields, it is really hard to recover from. You have to throw ultimates in, but when you lose an off support, it's even harder to try and sustain yourself through.
Supports are key to allow you to persevere through quite an aggressive play from Regen, and you're very right. That Brig no longer being there is a real challenge. And with this going into the next map, Mind Your Manners again, 2 maps down now, so they've got still a long way to go. 4 points to gain. It will be Blizzard World next, though, among these two teams. So with that being the map selection, there is a lot of usage, typically with, the Ashe that we've seen. Ashe Genji as a dynamic, with maybe even like a sprinkling of the Orisa as well. So depending upon how we go into this, we know that control is always a very unique form in and of itself, maintaining the control point. But with an open space like Blizzard World, I'm curious to see what's going to happen from Mind Your Manners moving into this map.
So one thing that we haven't really got to see so far in this series is Denthead on hit scan. Unfortunately, when you're in Control Center and when you're on Night Market, you're forced into that game of playing the sim and going for that drop-down battle and hoping that you win, and it's only after that fails that you swap. On Blizzard World, you can come out right from the get-go with something like a Widowmaker or like something with an Ashe. And I'm going to say now, Denthead on hit scan is one to watch out for. This team were able to full hold on Rialto 2 days ago against 303 Esports, and 75% of it was down to the fact that Denthead on Widowmaker got 9 critical hit kills on point A.
I mean, just hearing that many critical hits, knowing that that's just scary. I mean, I would be scared. I mean, granted, I'm not nearly to the capacity of these players, but that would still be scary nonetheless. And to have that come out onto this map, there is a lot of opportunity. There are some long sight lines. There are some nice nooks to hide in to really get that type of advantage. So, I mean, it's not something to be surprising. And if there's been success in the past and going against a team like this before, having the understanding of how to play this, that could be very detrimental to Mind Your Manners.
I mean, I say the Widowmaker, but he's also it's also very good on the Ashe. And when you go to Blizzard World, we're seeing teams forgo the Widowmaker because she is just so very vulnerable. You've got a 12-second cooldown on your escape tool, and if anyone like a Genji or a Winston, or even sometimes when we see the Sigma going for the 1v1 flank deal, decides that they want to have you for dinner, I'm sorry, you're serving yourself right up on a silver platter unless the rest of your team just closes rank and everyone does everything that they can to help you. But that means that you're not on that point. You're not focusing on your front line. And as soon as that focus goes away, those front line, those tanks, they're very, very fragile. They may have big, beefy health bars. Rich, but if you don't have a Batiste 24/7 keeping an eye on you, you are just wiped off the face of the planet when the other team decides, hey, let's take 3 steps forward.
I have to digress a little bit on that topic because you mentioned silver platter and it made me think of food. And I think every time we cast together, it hasn't been as often, but when we do, we always somehow bring something worth of food into these casts. And especially since we've got at least one food product pair inside of this game itself. I mean, you got to be feeling pretty happy about that. The question is what would you make with pairs? I would make a pie. I'd make a pie. I don't know about you, but
we're casting fruit as food. Richard, my respect for you just declined heavily.
Oh, don't. No. It's okay. Food's great. But as we enter into this and I talk about food, it's going to be 40 seconds, and we can take a look here at the defensive side, which is going to be Boat coming out on the Ashe and Chopper on the Genji. Mentioned this earlier. Again, something very, very typical to see come through here. But we're going to have more of the Ana for this side.
Rich, we're seeing an Ana.
I know, that's why I was getting there.
There we go, it's gone.
Okay.
On the defensive side, and you still go for the bait. You can play the Ana, but it is just opening yourself up to one little bit of vulnerability that you really can't afford, especially with Genji still being in the game. Rich, they're still there, they're still on that DPS, and those blades are still fatal if you don't have that extra little bit of CC to put that Genji in his place.
And with that little bit of CC, it's going to be critical. You see the side position through the Viking game room underneath here. That entranceway for a side angle. Is it still going to be a little bit of a slow play? A lot of damage and adjustment in positioning by Regen to watch out, but no forward position. Nice halt accretion to come through to just get a sprinkle of damage to try and generate some ult charge here. Chopper already just taking the lead, but once again, you see Pascal just slowly taking advantage. A lot of pick coming through to survive through it, and now this dynamite in the back is not going to really get much value, mitigating quite a bit of it, and you've got Mind Your Manners pressing forward and cleaning up swiftly.
Boat went down, you're just lacking that damage. You don't have an ultimate to try to make up for the space that player's absence is now providing MYM, and it's the domino effect. If you lose one singular player early on, Rich, it's so hard to call that fight back into your favor. And now MYM, they can press forward, they can occupy this high ground, they can force this poke composition to really have to pay to get the space that MYM just do not allow them, because this is going to be coming into this blade, and Chopper's so far behind right now.
Yeah, and with that being available in use right now, it could really be a nice patient play from Mind Your Manners. Biz is going to keep it. There's already an early positional advantage right now. Chopper gets the blade to come out and to compete, to challenge Biz, and at this point, Biz, I think, is going to get the better end of it. There's far too much crowd control against it, but as you said, that great Brig play helped secure the kill onto Biz and now allows a reset for Regen in this doorway.
MYM are now in the tougher position as well. They've got to approach this composition, this poke composition, that is just going to be set up on the high ground, spamming the Ashe with the Viper, the Genji with the Shurikens, even Ship with those spears, just doing everything that they can to connect with your body or your head to build up that ult charge.
And with that ult charge being built, you've got now Bob entering out since Dent managed to generate it quickly into that last fight. Flux to counter by Ship and rotates around, gets a little bit aggressive, but the supports are there to assist and maintain a sliver of health. Cannot survive any longer, but despite the kill onto Ship, there is still so much worthwhile value being gained with Lava on the front assisting and Chopper getting heavy poke damage from these shurikens.
Oh, Starscream, you do not want to get staggered out right now. Regen are missing their Sigma, therefore they can't go for as aggressive a hold as we see them in the last fight. They're backing off. If MYM are able to drop a supercharger or even amplification matrix, they should be able to get through this choke, but that window is closing quickly.
Ooh, and the nice dynamite into the halt doesn't get nearly as much as I think would have been liked by Regen with Boat in the back, but the fact that Bob has been instantly taken down along with the supercharger from Lava, this is a chance now for Mind Your Manners to press up, but this side position needs to be careful. You have the rally to fortify and survive through the amount of damage that Mind Your Manners is pumping out, especially with the dynamite that's been coming through from Dent in the back to generate these bobs entirely. And with this high ground position from Chopper doing a stellar job to give some harass, this is really just a scrappy engage near this payload and leading in with the rally from Chipsy.
It's just a war of attrition right now. One of these Batistas is going to drop Immortality Field early, and that's when the punish is going to come through.
Ooh, punish right there at the get-go. Star finds that stun with the accretion onto the counterpart. That is enough for Mind Your Manners to press into this payload and just start to round that Pylon Terrace Cafe.
Regen rolled the dice. They were trying to bait Pascal into using Immortality Field early. You could see Chopper just waiting, frothing at the mouth to put that blade in, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work out for this team, and now they have to get Chopper actually onto this payload through all of this CC, through this Immortality Field, through this Amplification Matrix.
And with the Amplification Matrix maintaining that bridgeway, the catwalk is secure, so no opportunity for Boat to rotate up top, and Chopper's going to have a difficult time as well, so maintaining this low ground is Regen to compete. Blade comes out by Biz into the Immortality Field. A lot of dynamite damage, and there's the hit scan, but despite that pick onto the Genji Blade, there is still far too much focus on the front line. No ability to survive from Regen, and this is Mind Your Manners transitioning into this final push with still a decent time bank.
Biz just went straight for CJ, and when that Batiste was occupied trying to keep themselves alive, they're not healing the rest of their team. Unfortunately for MYM, it is a lot harder now to get safely to that Batiste without losing your life than it is on point B.
So much cover and architecture to block that positioning, along with how forward you're actually having the push. Now, Dragon Blade Flux once again. Is there enough value from Chopper? The stun comes out to slow the momentum, but there is still far too much forward. And you've got Chopper cleaning up with the assistance of Lava, resetting Mind Your Manners, and now these critical patient plays are going to come very heavily from Mind Your Manners, because Regen's going to be in a good position where this payload is to try and play this corner.
You just get such a beautiful line of sight onto Mind Your Manners. The only way that you're going to be able 100% to not lose anyone early in the rotation is if you go side room.
Oh, and you've got a Flux actually going to be committed here from Mind Your Manners. Entering into this, is there the follow through? Biz is actually going to find one onto Lava up front. Multiple members thrown to the air to draw attention to only that Omnic Centaur up front. A dash out from Chopper to try and peek the corner to survive. Bob aiding in this fight for Regen to withstand this forward press. A counter Bob comes through, and it's not going to be nearly as useful. A nice play in this small corridor to the side by Ship, who takes down the Omnic. And pressing forward, you've got Regen recovering. The Halt pulling multiple together, and with the rally from Magic on this front side, it's going to reinforce for a nice recovery and takes off a full minute of the clock from Mind Your Manners.
CJ is the hero of the hour right now for me. He just dropped Amplification Matrix not to help his team do more damage, but right in front of himself and himself only, so he's healing everybody else up double. And that means MYM just cannot get in to finish off those kills. Ship going down though forces Regen to back out. You have to give space. Chopper's got a blade, but you haven't been able to pull anything out from the enemy yet.
Oh, nice halt to the dash. Huge damage coming through that. The blade was already generated, but still a significant follow through. And regardless of that, it is going to be a lot more damage coming through. Again, that early pick onto Ship is not beneficial, and a reset's going to come through, holding back a little bit and making this payload push a little further.
It's going to be the battle of the blades. Which one's going to find more value? Blade followed with Supercharger, or Sigma Flux followed by Chopper? It's all going to be down to those two Genjis and those two Batistes. Who is going to be able to survive this longer?
And you've got the Flux leading early. No Dragon Blade committed when Ship expended it. And the fact that you've got the Dragon Blade leading first is what really secures this. Biz finds the advantage and outmaneuvers their opponent. Regen being caught off guard and completely overrun for a completed round by Mind Your Manners.
The second Ship drops that Sigma Flux, Chopper has to be there with the blade. You've got to have that follow-up coming through. Sigma Flux guarantees you drop a target 50% below the health bar, Rich. And that means tasty, tasty chicken dinner for a Genji main when you've got that ultimate charged. But it doesn't happen. And we see on the other side for MYM, as soon as those supercharges goes down, you know, you hear the blade coming out, you see the kill feed light up, and MYM are able to pick up that third point on a map that we don't always see that payload. In fact, we rarely get to see that payload properly finish up because double shield fights take so very long to finish.
Tasty, tasty chicken dinner. I make the pear comment and you make the chicken. All right, I'll accept that. Yes,
Chicken's
indeed.
more of a food than fruit.
more substance at that point. I mean, when you're in Blizzard World, you might find a mutton somewhere. As there's this 20 seconds to go, and you were talking about the dual shield, and you know, with sides reversed, we're going to see this mirror. Would not be surprised to see any adjustments to this. And with how fast you had Mind Your Manners on the attack, I'm really curious if Regen can pull the same type of just aggression on top of this team. And it was done very well by Mind Your Manners as a whole, aggressing onto this point early. And how Regen is going to respond is going to be really critical.
Whether or not they're going to be able to punish 10 heads aggression. No, there we go, getting out. Dynamite already charging up 25% of an ultimate ahead of both. That's huge. The fact that MYM are able to pull that off means 10 head doesn't even need to necessarily get a pick in this next fight. He just needs to hit a couple more shots, and then that Bob is online.
Fantastic job anticipating that Symmetra play and being ready for that movement. That leads so heavily into this. CJ, though, with this Baptiste getting a massively fast amplification matrix going into this with that dynamite that came out early, and Pear is going to get overrun on the front sides. Healer's still supporting very well, but Chopper finds the kill. Numbers advantage now with that amplification matrix from Regen rotating around, and this is practically a mirror of what happened the round prior, and this is a very lightning fast take for Regen against Mind Your Manners.
CJ again uses amplification matrix to help himself healing the team. So even though MYM are doing a lot of damage, even though they have the point that they can try and fall back onto, they're just not doing enough to actually translate that into kills. Now we can see Regen, they don't have amplification matrix, so they have to be cautious. Pascal can just drop it on the high ground, and that secures MYM all of the space they need, and that's why Regen are being extremely passive right now. They're just poking away, waiting until Chopper hits that blade, but specifically for Lava to hit the supercharge along with it.
Oh, and with that lead into the supercharger being nowhere near, at least for usage, you've got Biz with this Dragon Blade to kind of sustain. Honestly, it was really just trying to force out the ultimates. A nice job getting Pascal with this forced flux in the back now, and Biz comes in, gets the dash dagger, and a second immediately after. What a great flank and rotation to the back line to put now Regen in a position that Mind Your Manner was as the time forward with this doorway.
And Biz is able to do all of that, still holding on to the ultimate. However, Pear is too far away from superchargers right now. MYM is setting up in a very aggressive manner. They're all clustered up together. If Chopper is able to get in, the cat amongst the pigeons, and Lava can keep those superchargers up and alive, this should be a free team fight win.
And with Bob entering in, the numbers advantage, but goes a little bit, I think, too far. And because of this angle, it's really not going to get much damage onto Mind Your Manners. And now with the Dragon Blade entering into this, it's finding an early pick onto Magic, which is huge, taking down the support. Chopper attempting to compete with a blade of his own, staggering after, and it will yield a far greater result. And you have Regen persevering through that high ground hold with quite an organized play and some great patience on the blade.
Biz may have had Blade first, may have used it first, but he didn't have the superchargers. He didn't have that extra kick. And so Regen, well, they don't even use theirs either. They just use that whole ability. And now if you're MYM, you can try to set up on the high ground. You want Denthead to be set up on the high ground to pull up to that Bob fast. But Regen aren't going to allow that to be an easy task. They've got so much that they can just drop to buy themselves the space, and already superchargers coming out.
With the dynamite to immediately follow, huge boost right now, getting 2 already bolt DPS out. Really not too much value that amplification matrix can gain outside of healing the front line, but with Chopper assisting in the back, this is just a very well-rounded fight and going to reach this checkpoint with 4.5 minutes, a healthy time bank transitioning into this last push.
And you can push forward really aggressively because, oh, Rich, there are bad spawns. They are really going to try and capitalize on this moment.
But nice evasion. Able to mitigate the damage, survive through it, no stagger, still getting some pick damage as well for Bob to be ready for this next fight by Dent, but needs to keep their head down for sure.
You have to be so careful though, because if Lava or Ship just comes in and denies your Bob entirely, that's all of the softening power gone.
Bob and Dynamite entering into that, but nice early defensive shielding coming out to protect Regen in the back. That immortality field was huge, with a Flux trying to counter from Starscream overhead, but does still get picked off by Bob in the corner. Couldn't manage to sidestep out of the way and get a decent land on that Flux. And you're in a good position if you're Regen right now to push the rest of this way.
MYM are going to be coming in to Blade though. This is the Hail Mary. This is the one thing that has to work out for this team, but it's gonna be so hard to set up. Because you've got a blade, but you're gonna be blading into a rally. Ship can just pick you up and drop you and dunk you like a ragdoll, and then Chopper can just come in and team kill your entire place.
Do not get dunked as the fight begins with Chopper in the back getting one. The blade takes out the immortality field and finds the backline. Ash hit scan no available, and the Brigitte tries to counter. It is going to be a tall order for Mind Your Manners to stop it, and that order will not be reached as round 2 is completed.
MYM just were not given the space. They weren't given the time. Biz doesn't get the blade online. This is the one thing that the team needed. And you could see the cogs working in Regen's mind when they're like, okay, we can either hold on to ultimates for when the Genji has blade, or we kill them before it comes online. And they picked option B, and it worked out spectacularly for them. And we're seeing a massive difference in time bank right now, Rich. That was one of the fastest pushes of Blizzworld I've seen this year.
I mean, and it's those critical plays and, like, ultimate management of your opponent that really can spell out a well-rounded team. Knowing and keeping track of those things are critical, and being able to take advantage of it early allowed that to generate a 3-minute time bank. Now, 60 seconds, though, is still a lot here for Mind Your Manners because they were actually able to take it still very quickly in this first attempt.
They just need to win this first fight. They have to find some groundwork because you need at least one take, preferably point A and a good way through point B, if you want to stand a chance when the other side has access to 3 minutes.
Yes, indeed. And now the 5-second countdown is here. With these doors opening up, will Mind Your Manners be able to draw this out as far as possible? Or is Regen going to have a solid hold here to prep? And you're going to see that side position once again through the Viking registration room for another engage.
This means that boat should be able to get a huge dynamite coming through, though. It's so telegraphed. If Lava has that halt coming through, you're already beating Denthead and ult charge.
And with that ult charge being beaten here, you've got 35 seconds. It's now or never. At least some pick damage has to come through, but the halt follow-up overneath the shield is going to be very helpful. Regen on this defense is doing a stellar job to maintain their health values by the supports in the back. Dent generating just past that 50%, and Pascal getting right near that amplification matrix, and it has to come through soon, or it's not going to be enough to press onto this.
You have to be able to use it in an aggressive position as well. Immortality field already forced out, but you've got all of the aggression you need to keep them safe.
And now the return immortality field, or correction, amplification matrix coming out to try and get that extra boosted damage and healing necessary for Regen to maintain as the overtime ticking away, but a pick comes out onto boat in the back. Biz finding a huge advantage. The Dragon Blade is available and has not yet been committed. Finally does underneath the awning, looking for the supports, but this Brigitte knocking and stunning that blade away, and now Chopper has the chance to redeem themselves. With this Bob and Blade still getting 2, it is enough. Bob being that extra player in this match to allow Mind Your Manners to get enough aggression on this point and start to transition into overtime with this payload.
But it's overtime, Rich, which means you can't step off that cart. You can't disengage when Lava comes in with those supercharges. If Boat keeps a hold of this Bob, and Lava puts in the supercharges at the same time, MYM are just going to be forced to eat the damage. And Pascal needs to be coming in with an amplification matrix. Pair has to be dropping those supercharges. You have to initiate each and every one of these fights because you cannot allow Chopper or Ship to build up to an ultimate, otherwise you're just gone from that payload.
The initiation is key, and now with this initiation starting, the supercharger comes out from Lava. Bob in the back going to get that forward positioning just in the archway as the collapse will come through, forcing MYM off the point, and there it goes. Lightning fast. Round 3 completed, but the positive part of this is there was still a take on the control point and transition into the payload phase, so there's at least something that Mind Your Manners can hold on to, but 3 minutes is a tall order to defend against.
But Blizzard World, we tend to see point A. You either win it in the first fight or in overtime, or sometimes even not at all. So if you're MYM, the one thing that you have to be taking advantage of right now is distance. Regen are going to be walking towards you, you know that. You can set up on the high ground, you can put yourself in the best possible position to hit those ultimates first. But everyone has to be alive, Rich. One from MYM, if they go down early, this map is over. And Regen are just going to swarm over that point, use that numbers advantage, and completely kick you off that space.
And it's just, if you can kick them off the space with this amount of time, I'm almost really looking to see how Biz and Dent are going to maneuver around this first position DPS to really compete against this, angle that Regen's going to tank. We're most likely going to see it side position, but I can guarantee you that Dent's not going to play forward again with a Symmetra play that could potentially come out and risk getting picked off.
Yeah, you can see MYM being extremely conservative right now. Everyone's behind the Orisa shield. Denhead is going to be angling to get a little bit of ult percentage, but you can't be too aggressive. If your Ashe gets picked off first, you're lacking that coach gun, you're lacking that amount of damage, and you're lacking that dynamite that really forces the Batiste into using Immortality Field at times he does not want to be putting it down.
And with that, press forward these final moments for Mind Your Manners to now be in a good position. You've got this accretion and stun coming through, but Biz barely surviving. The dynamite comes through in the back, able to get him low and generate a lot here, but there's still the early advantage for Dent. This rotation from Biz is going to be critical to try and find that kill onto both, but can't seem to do it. Both the Immortality Field has also been expended. With CJ now, with this amplification matrix coming through, could be enough for Regen to push onto this point, but Mind Your Manners is being very respectful of it and knows to play back.
And because they're playing back, no one from the side of Regen is being able to charge their ultimates up through that window. Regen's push was completely for naught right now, and MYM are in firm control of these fights, of the tempo, because Denthead does not need to go for the aggressive plays. You're going to have Bob in this next fight. It's going to be there for when Chopper hits that blade if you want to hold on to it for that long for the peel.
And with that hold, here comes 1 minute and 45 seconds. The halt pulls in a few. Nice early pick, which is critical by Denthead. And this ultimate advantage coming through and maintaining. You've got Bob and the Blade from Mind Your Manners getting ready to take this to a final fight where Regen is in a very difficult position.
It's been 2 fights and Chopper has not been able to hit 60% of an ultimate. That goes to show how well MYM are dealing with Regen right now. They're not allowing the Genji the space. They're not allowing him to get into that backline. Pascal is playing so well protected that the Genji is just not able to go for the Batiste, not able to force out Immortality Field, and not able to build up to the Blade, which is the ultimate. Regen needs. That's the one thing that immediately, as soon as you hear those voice line coming towards you, every team takes one massive step back. And if MYM take a single step back in this next fight, Rich, they've lost.
And those single steps will truly define the outcome, but it looks like we do have a pause for some technical difficulties at the moment, so we will go to a brief break before getting back into this. We think it is just a small correction, so it will not be long, so don't go anywhere, friends, because we want to see if Mind Your Manners can actually hold on this defense, or Regen will have just enough to complete this map. Hello and welcome back, friends. Glad to be here with you as we've got now a minute and 10 seconds to go. Mind your manners on this defensive side, doing a stellar job with a minute and 10 to go. Regen's got a tall order here, Moxie.
Alright, Regen going to be in the last fight before you get hit that overtime scramble, and MYM coming in control of each and every one of these.
And a lot of control is coming through right now by Mind Your Manners with the Bob and Blade. Unbelievable. BB, it's the Bob and Blade, the Blade and Bob, claiming it with a team kill 45 seconds. And now Regen has a lot stacked up for this one.
Yeah, MYM are going to have to be very cautious that they don't get caught out early in this engagement. Pascal's Immortality Field has to come in just at the right time because they use the Blade. They used the Bob, and now they don't have zoning tools. They will have Sigma Flux and Rally, a lot of sustainability, but Regen with the Supercharger, with this Blade, can just cut through that like a butter knife.
And with that halt flux, will there be a butter knife in the back? Melted butter, but it's going to be one being melted already. Boat goes down by that flux on the front. Starscream Chopper needs a miracle right now with this Genji blade in the back. Looks for the kills on the support, can't manage to find it. Barely evades, but now the Genji v Genji play in the back. The counter comes through. There is far too much aggression on this front line while the Genjis have a field day in the back. There is more than enough for Regen to claim this, and now it's going to be one last contest here by Mind Your Manners.
And I'm going to be trying to stall this cut out for as long as possible. Pair already going on to the Hammond. Starscream going to be sticking with the Sigma. You're 50% away from that ultimate. That's the one thing that MYM want to come online, so you can go for that patented and pended Sigma 9. But Biz is going to be the hero of the hour right now. If it's anyone on the side of MYM, this blade is going to be right there. He just has to get it online quick enough.
And with the stun coming in, Bob going to be out in the open, doesn't go too far forward and is slept in the midst of it because the Ana is able to find it. MYM in the back with Pear gets stunned and locked up. Is there enough to regain positioning onto this? The blade comes through by Biz, shut down by the accretion, and it continues to press on with that amplification matrix coming out from CJ. The rally to secure both support ultimates expended. Pear at this point looking for a minefield into the flux, but the flux is no longer there with the takedown on Boat. And with these final staggers coming through, Regen is going to claim this map of Blizzard World, and they now have a 3-map win over Mind Your Manners. Is there enough for this reverse sweep?
I mean, I love how Mind Your Manners approached that last fight, though. Swapping onto the Ana because you know that the Ashe is going to have a Bob charge, and that's the best way you can shut him down. Stroke of genius. Even the swap onto the Hammond as well, so you can try to go for a little bit of the CC, the knock around, allow Biz to have less attention on himself when he comes in with the blade, build up to mines, drop them onto the point, guarantee yourself a little bit of space. Unfortunately, when you swap onto an Ana, and unfortunately when you swap onto a Hammond, there's a domino effect. The Hammond has to be uber aggressive because he's lacking that double shield. He means that the rest of your team, that backline, is 50% less protected than the side that you're running into, Rich, which means 50% more spam is going to be getting through. And when you have an Ana, healing isn't really there. She's been hit by a couple of changes, 75 to 70. It doesn't sound like a lot. But as a budding Ana main myself, I'm going to tell you now. You plunk an Ana in with an Orisa and a Hammond and you tell them to keep them up when they're facing 6 people, those 2 tanks are gone within seconds.
100% agree with you. I mean, and again, it is not much when you look at it on paper, but an accumulative healing output over a fight, and with especially someone like the Hammond who rounds the corner so quickly and loses sightline, it truly is a challenge when you switch to that. The sleep was nice on the Bob, but it was still not enough here to change that about. And we are going into this potential match point here with Regen taking 3 points worth so far, 2 maps already. But before we get into that final potential winning map here for Regen, we're going to go to a brief break, and maybe Mind Your Manners will be able to bolster their morale, get their minds straight, and take this to a reverse sweeps, friends, so don't go anywhere.
So you queue up for Overwatch Ranked, only to be greeted by this, which then leads to this, and oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing? The solution? Elo Hell pickup games.
Hey, you know what? Just fucking do it.
Oh my god, it's huge! Oh, no! Kill! Let's go.
Open to players of all ranks and most platforms, Pugs give you the chance to experience competitive Overwatch as it was meant to be played. Competitively.
I need help.
I'm with you.
Shoot.
No way, dude.
Go. Let's go. Nice. Good call.
Players set their icons to indicate the role they want to play, then 2 captains pick their teammates and draft the most competitive teams they can. You can also take part in our pioneering learning event, Coached Pugs. To take part, join the Elo Hell Pickup Games Discord, and be sure to read the Pug Guide and FAQ. Good luck, have fun, and we'll see you in-game.
Welcome back, friends. Told you it'd be fast. We're here now to see that potential match point for Regen, or is Mind Your Manners going to be able to come back from this huge deficit that they found themselves in? We're going to be on the map of Rialto. I am Rich Rad here with Moxie. And Moxie, what do you think's got to happen here for Mind Your Manners to completely shift this around?
I mean, if Mind Your Manners are going to be able to take any map in this series, their best shot is honestly this one. Rialto is just their comfort zone. They're so good at setting up crossfires. You can already see Denthead there on the attacker's spawn, but I have no doubt that you're going to be coming out either on that Widowmaker that we're seeing now or the Ashe, and it all revolves around whether or not you're going to be able to find value. If that Widowmaker is able to have such an impact as I saw 2 days ago against 303, then MYM are going to breeze through this courtyard. If you get caught out by boat, or worse, your team isn't able to keep Chopper off your back, then all of that impact, it's just not going to be there. You're going to be playing one person down in each and every one of these engagements, and MYM aren't going to be able to get past that first corner.
Oh, but right out the door, Boat is eliminated. There is still a lot to shoot through on that balcony from Dent, but the fact that that numbers advantage happened and the counter Widow play, that is a huge advantage into this courtyard.
Boat's already off Widowmaker, already going on to the Ashe to try and just leave Chopper to deal with Denthead, but now going to be hitting their shots.
And with the high ground, Biz really looking to contest, but Chopper is there to respond. Boat actually getting a nice counter pick with this hit scan, playing a little bit more close in proximity with the sheer raw damage overhead, along having the utility with that middle courtyard. Magic gonna go down in exchange, though. This is going to be, what a beautiful halt and dynamite, mind you. Nice recovery in the back, but Biz still gets a takedown onto that support play. This is just really quite scrappy between both of these teams right now.
Biz is still separated as well. He's still in the back line. He's trying to get a pick, but because he's just running away, CJ is able to get back into the team composition. And all of the impact MYM should have been feeling when they got that Batiste out of the way is just completely by the wayside.
And being pulled together, no longer being by the wayside. Nice dash comes through in the center of it. A Flux is going to be there to counter as you've got Lava forcing out the Fortify to move forward to engage on this. The Immortality Field and Amplification Matrix being forced out early once again on Mind Your Manners, which is a real challenge. And the Amplification Matrix so far back doesn't get nearly as much value. Blade is going to be forced into this, with Biz finally getting some value on these return slashes, but it's just way too late in these fights. It's worn down a lot of time, finally pressing into this courtyard, and Regen now is going to look for a reset here. So ultimately, you've got Mind Your Manners still in a good position to press on.
But not when you look at ultimates.
I
Regen
know.
have Amplification Matrix, Rally, Supercharges, all the stuff that they can just drop right on main road to force MYM to just try and duck for cover. And when you're in control of that pillage, you don't want to step away.
Oh, and you know who's going to be ducking for cover? It's definitely going to be Mind Your Manners with all these ultimates. The Amplification Matrix right in the doorway. Nice rotation here by MYM to respect that positioning, not only for the Amp Matrix, but also Bob. And now the staggered Supercharger is going to give some extra rhyme to reason for this push, and the collapse comes through. And now you've got Regen holding just before that checkpoint. Mind Your Manners needing to recover here with what remains. And now there's gonna be just that lonely little Baptiste is gonna say, come here, friends, I'm gonna say goodbye and we gonna reset.
And now MYM have to cross courtyard again. And it's going to be an absolute gauntlet. This poke composition is going to be searching for each and every one of your heads. Both can hit Bob in this next fight. Denthead is going to have a much harder time because you're contesting the Ash. You've got to be so careful. You can't go for the aggressive play. Your team won't be able to save you. You've got to focus on yourself.
And with the aggressive play, Flux gonna lead. You've got multiple members being thrown up in the air. Ship does drop down to force the kinetic crash to mitigate that incoming damage. Nicely done. Dent, though, still gonna find some value on that back line. Boat, unfortunately, being brought out of the fight. Chopper looks for a redemption fight, though, here. Gets the double, wants the triple, gets it with the dash reset, and almost looks for the quad, but is taken away by CJ. 34 seconds, the bell shall toll, and MYM is in final fight territory.
EQO, eat your heart out. And now Biz has to go for the exact same play. But you're a Genji walking into a team that knows you've got Blade, knows that they're going to have CC, and both 10% away from that Bob can just throw that one out and peel for you. You are a fly walking into the spider's web right now if you don't see where this team is standing.
Ooh, and you've got that corner angle. Nice halt into the center of it, but Bob's going to come out early. Oh no, with Pascal going down and Bob to flank from the side. Lava gets two. This is absolutely challenging for Mind Your Manners to recover from, but the Flux and the Dragon Blade may just be enough here. And the taking a bullet and kicking it back, as that will be enough in this overtime wick for Mind Your Manners to reach this checkpoint.
And Regen, they're not going to be fast enough. No contest can come through. And MYM breathe a big sigh of relief as they get 2 minutes 24 seconds bolstered to their time bank, the ability to keep pushing ahead on Rialto. And now you can try and set yourself up on high ground. Pear's the one who needs to get the damage hammered in at the moment, because if Lava hits the superchargers first, MYM are going to be forced to give up space yet again.
Nearing the supercharger, Lava just slightly ahead, so there is a chance to take advantage of it, but Boat's gonna go down. Dent actually gets the better half of that exchange. Biz playing very carefully behind the Orisa from Pear with the Fortify, and still managing to push this card on the low ground, and looks for that backline flank once again. Biz being very prompt to this, but now this high stairway is a very difficult position for Mind Your Manners to be competing against.
Especially because Lava's going to have the superchargers right now. You've got to be wary.
Ooh, nice halt though in the back, bringing all of Regen down to the low ground to try and compete head-to-head as Pear enters in with the supercharger. Lava there to recoup as well. Chopper does not enter in with a Dragon Blade just yet, holding and hesitating as both support ultimates have been forced out by Regen. Lots of extra damage through here. Boat gets a takedown on that counterpart, and the fact that Chopper held on to that, I feel, was a little interesting. Could have really used it. Now going to put it into the late game. The dynamite comes through as well, and there's actually a really good recovery. I said it was a little iffy, but now I see why, because Boat and Chopper worked so well together there.
And now Boat gets to work even better because MYM are pushing ahead of this bridge. Open spaced bridge where spam damage gets to reign supreme. And you're not even going to be able to try and go for this trade because Boat's going to be hidden behind 2 layers of shields. Shields that MYM really cannot afford to give up until they're able to safely traverse this passage.
And Chopper dashing in the back. There is just a onslaught on to Mind Your Manners. And as you said, the poke damage and dominance in position will prevail. And that is a perfect example of it.
Basically, every single time MYM come in, if they get poked down below 50% of their health bar, Pascal is forced to invest in Mortality Field. And that means 25 seconds where Regen, if they've got an ultimate, can immediately come in and capitalize, knowing that it will connect, knowing if placed right, it will get a pick.
Ooh, Dynamite Bob looking to capitalize, though, on this defensive side by Regen, breaking down the shield so it's not going to be able to recover. Swift movement underneath by Mind Your Manners to at least get to the point. The Dragon Blade by Biz is still being held onto, with Chips now going to enter in with that rally to fortify Biz on the front side, rotating quickly to get that slash damage, but because of Regen dropping this amplification matrix and falling back, there's no value to it. This is a cleanup. Regen now going to solidify their dominance onto Mind Your Manners just around this corner, which is so difficult to turn, and that will be more than enough to take down Mind Your Manners, but a worthy attempt and still quite a distance gained.
Honestly, MYM only needed one part of Rialto to unlock for them, and that was point A. This is where this team feels at most home. Denthead on this Widowmaker can carry this match, provided the team buy enough attention away from the Widowmaker in the backline. Because if Regen decide to really go after that DPS, send a Hammond, send a D.Va, send a Winston, send a Genji, all of that value is going to fall off, and we'll see Denthead swap off the Widowmaker and onto the Ashe, which didn't have quite the same impact. Boat was getting about 95% of those 1v1s heading into their favor. The ultimates were charging up faster. They were there when Regen needed them, whereas when MYM really needed a Bob, Denthead was back in spawn sitting at 95%.
And taking a look at this defensive side, it actually is going to be... Oh, correction, never mind. That's the attacking side. I swear I know what I'm looking at. As it's going to be Dent, as you said, with the Widowmaker. I thought that there would be a Reinhardt on the defensive side, but we've got this...
Ryan, yes.
I know, right? I know. That's why I was like, I swear that something is wrong here, and I was correct. As now you've got the, again, defensive position here by Mind Your Manners, going to play this little bit further back position, and Dent gonna look for that side angle that you saw Boat tried to play earlier, and looking to still get that early takedown.
I mean, this is where Denthead 2 days ago was able to just dink the head of a Genji coming out of spawn, but Regen, no Dent's tricks. They're not going to allow a first pick to go ahead that easily.
And with this backline positioning into the open courtyard, it's very respective of how Regen is pushing into this. Mind Your Manners wants intel for this engagement, looking to see where the rotations are going to come through. Boat in the back also looking for a potential pick on this Tracer, slowly but surely moving through. And with the Widowmaker getting a pick in the back, here it comes, and you talked about it. The focus onto the Widow needs to happen. Even though there is still an even 1-for-1 exchange, that is a big pickup here, and Boat now is free to really rain damage and pepper it in the back, but Biz, on the other hand, wants to try and keep up front with those tank lines, and it's actually prevailing pretty well on this payload.
When you have a Tracer, you're going to find value going up against the Widow, yes, but when it comes to the rest of the team, that's where your value falls off. And you can already see Boat just having to stick to the sidelines as soon as Dent's gone.
Especially with that Brig getting the stun in the backline, it's really detrimental to the Tracer. This fight continuing on the front side, you already have the Fortify forced out by Lava, pressing up. Boat also just mitigating as much damage as possible. The recall coming through with Ship on the front. These shield placements are critical for Regen right now to persevere through that damage and actually really utilizing them to their advantage. And Dent right now being brought down by Chopper, the stagger again. This will most likely be a solid completion here and not really too much of a recontest.
Especially if Boat's still going to be drawing so much attention away, and MYM can't go for the recontest until they deal with this Tracer in the rafters.
Oh, almost gets the pick here onto Pascal. Unfortunately doesn't get it. The pulse bomb comes through and once again, and no, gets knocked off the edge. Beautiful recovery by Chipsy in the back. And that's going to be enough to hold just with under 2 meters to go. What a great play by Mind Your Manners here.
And mind your manners as well, having a heads-up play of holding on to Amplification Matrix, so they can punish the fact that Regen have to go through Courtyard. They're going to be taking so much damage, Pez going to be able to hit the superchargers, and if Starscream's able to get enough damage with the spheres going through, you will be a good way towards that Sigma Flux. Unfortunately, you have to finish the fight before it gets close, because if Lava's able to close the distance and Chopper comes in with that blade, this team is going to be wiped.
And with that shield coming out early to close the distance, Halt comes out, but there's an accretion by Ship, allowing a nice bypass, but no! Starscream gets the stagger onto Ship, which is critical. A recovery is going to come through by Mind Your Manners, and now Regen has to wait.
But you cannot, if you're MYM, let your guard down. They're going to be able to just move around the back of you. And Chopper coming in with this blade is something that you still have to be fearful of, especially because Pascal used Amplification Matrix. It's only the superchargers to try to keep this team off your back right now.
60 seconds, you hear it from the announcer. It comes through with Flux primed and ready for this. The blade comes out, ultimates and fireworks to enter in. Chopper holding off, even though the armor is still generating, it's going to be waiting. The Flux comes out overhead, the blade now diving in the back to try and take down the Orisa, manages to do so, and the follow through in the back line. The Baptiste will be able to jump, but not be able to escape. The cleanup comes through, and despite all of that, that was actually a very costly ultimate economy for Regen.
MYM should have the upper hand if they're able to set up on the high ground. They need to let Denthead and Biz come in with this blade, come in with this bob, because if Regen are given the space to breathe, if they're able to keep a hold of Staircase, CJ can just drop Amplification Matrix all the while this payload gets the free push.
And again, that stairway is a very difficult position to play. If you are on the defensive side, it can be very beneficial. But with how far forward Regen is playing and how quickly this payload has moved, this is entering into that last fight territory. And that Halt has been consistent from Regen to bring down multiple members from the high ground. If all of Mind Your Manners can be alleviated from that high ground position, this is going to be it. Biz getting very low, though, in the back and can't look for an engagement and is distant from the healers. Does get stunned by the accretion and taken out. This might just be Regen having enough momentum to push this corner and compete to shut out a 4-0 point score in this grand finals. The dominance coming through. Ship on the front side, a kinetic grasp on the counter side from Starscream to mitigate the damage, but now with magic on this brig brings in the rally to sustain through the damage. There is not going to be enough from Mind Your Manners, and this will be Regen taking all 3 maps with that additional winner's bracket point, with this first to 4 going in their favor.
You have to feel for Biz. If you'd been able to get that blade off and you were in line of sight of your support, then you would have been able to buy space. You would have been able to buy time for Denhead to properly set up that Bob. Pascal's Amplification Matrix would have secured you even more seconds, could even have kicked Regen off around the corner to wait for that next fight, and then you can take proper advantage of having that high ground on point B, of going for the spam damage, of drawing out those fights as long as you can until you see that overtime wick come in. But it's not to be, Rich. The Genji blade comes out, and we see him stunned, we see him bopped, we see him booped, and we just see him absolutely obliterated. MYM, unfortunately, unable to get the redemption arc going today. They will lose second time against Regen, but this time they don't even get to pick up a map.
No, they don't. It was very well played by Regen. Again, there was a lot of evolution from Mind Your Manners moving through this, but it was not into their final form, whereas Regen had entered theirs. Far too much power, and it was a stellar game from both of these teams. I have to say, even though there was not a map pickup here from Mind Your Manners, there was still a very stellar amount of gameplay between these two, and really putting Regen on their toes quite a few times through the course of this tournament today.
I mean, we were even discussing it in the map breaks. We were saying it's not like MYM played badly. It's just that Regen had the slightest edge when it came to backline. Every single time MYM got into a fight where they found the wrong end of the stick, it was because Immortality Field had been pulled out early. And it wasn't even down to Pascal. You had to put Immortality Field in, otherwise you would lose a member and then you would be staring down the barrel of a team wipe. Unfortunately, Regen were just so good at getting that damage, at making it stick, and a lot of that comes from the dynamites that team was able to just constantly, consistently hammer in, forcing MYM time and time again to invest that 25-second cooldown or lose a member early on.
Rocking a hard place is never a great place to be as a support, but you know, you find that as a support role. I mean, you as an Ana, you said you're a support player yourself, so it's never easy. But again, thank you so much to both of these teams for sticking it out through this long day worth of Overwatch. It has been an absolute pleasure to be bringing all of this amazing action to you that are viewing right now. Serious, great thanks to our production as well, who managed through a few of those technical difficulties as well to continue bringing you this amazing action. And for those that have been tuning in, I hope you have a spectacular rest of your evening. And until next time, friends, happy gaming.
Academy, they lay down the shatter, let the bodies hit the floor. Uprising Academy at 95%.
Right now with Hydra building up to this Bear Barrage so quickly.
Oh, and asking.
Double kill in the back with the pulse bomb from the high ground. Aerial assault with that mine.
Impact se escucha de baja gritar campeón a Sky Foxes.
Holy cow.
And after 42 consecutive losses, the Shanghai Dragons get their first win.
8 teams enter this weekend.
Oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing?
We got a clip with minimal information. It's time to break it down. Speed, 25%. Go. Figure out what this man's SR is.
Keep fighting until it's for sure lost.
Winnable!